MPI offers some certificate programs for you to take advantage of. You can get 20% off those programs using the code IMEXH25.
Well, we're up 20 seconds until we're on.
MPI.org/certificates. Incredible programs around everything from media strategy to inclusive event design, auditorium, and in the back of the booth, 20% off. MPI membership, join my family.
Hello everyone and welcome back to MPItv, sponsored by Socio. As you can see, our background looks very different than our show this morning because the show floor here is officially open for business, and I've got to tell you, the energy on the show floor is outstanding. It almost feels quote-unquote normal, which is so wonderful. And joining me now, of course, is none other than Karina Bauer, CEO of the IMEX Group. And Karina, I mean, I'm sure this was an emotional moment for you opening the show floor after 2 years of not having this sights and sounds of IMEX America. So what is this moment like for you?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was emotional for me and the whole team. And, we really missed it. We missed the sight, the smell, the sound, and we just missed seeing everybody coming together and doing business. So it was really special for us. It's been special all the way through the build-up, and it was a really special morning, just seeing everybody coming through the doors and being so happy to see each other, lots of hugs, and it was really lovely to just feel that energy. As you say, it feels normal, and that's the best compliment for us.
Yeah, well, you deserve the compliment. I mean, this was, it took a lot of effort to put this together. Was there ever a moment in the planning process, because of course it's been 2 years since IMEX America happened, where you and the team were like, oh, this may not be looking too good for us come November of 21?
I don't think really in the past 6 to 9 months, if I'm honest, that we've had any serious doubts. Of course, I think what we've all learned through this period is that life isn't maybe as certain as we expected it to be. And maybe that's something we should have known anyway, but we've certainly learned that. But apart from that sort of fundamental understanding we all have, I think the past 6 to 9 months in particular, we've seen the trajectory, especially because of vaccines, which have really changed all of our lives, and we could see that things were opening. So even in those sort of lockdown dark times earlier in the year, we felt really very certain that the show would happen. What we didn't know was how big the show would be, how international the show would be, and how normal it would be. So those were the things, I suppose, that kept us up at night. But we felt really confident as you can be in these times, that the show would actually take place. Yes, certainly decisions like that definitely keep you up at night. And I think it's, until you've made the decision as well, it's very difficult because there are so many, ways that you can go. I think for us, we could see that vaccines were allowing the whole industry and the whole world to open up again. Obviously, as trade show organisers, our job is to welcome everybody in, and that's what we want to do. So you never want to exclude anybody or any groups. But especially when Delta started rising here in the United States, and talking to some of our major exhibitors and major buying groups who, people that bring in, hundreds of buyers into the show, really they were telling us that, they needed to give those buyers confidence, they needed to give their staff confidence. And we really felt, our job is to create the safest possible environment. We can't make anything zero risk, but we can create as safe a possible environment as possible. And part of that is what we do with the venue and the protocols. But we knew as well, it came to a point where we could see that a big part of that was going to be vaccine mandates, and making sure that people knew that everybody in this hall was in that same position and had lowered the risk. And the science shows that if everybody in the space is vaccinated, there's not zero risk, but it's significantly reduced. And we just felt at a certain point that we needed to give people that confidence, so that they could, make their plans to attend. And we feel that has worked in that regard.
Yeah, and I admire your decision to take such a bold stand. I think that's exactly what our industry needed. So thank you for doing doing that.
Welcome.
And so, of course, the heavens opened up for you even more because the international borders opened on Monday, yesterday, for Smart Monday. So how do you think, that helped generate more of our international attendees to join us in Vegas?
It definitely made a big difference. I mean, had the announcement of the borders come earlier, so had it been a couple of weeks earlier, it would have made even a bigger difference, because all of our European exhibitors, our Asian exhibitors, they were committed to coming, but they didn't know how big their booths could be, because they didn't know whether they'd be operating their booths with their US colleagues only, or whether people from Europe could come in. So it had a massive impact, because suddenly the partners from Europe could come in, as well as just the US contacts. And the same with the buyers. We had a kind of a holding pattern of about 300 buyers from around the world who were registered, who were committed, but they didn't know if they could get here. And they were willing to stick it out and wait for that announcement. So yeah, it's made a big difference, and it's made a big difference just to the sentiment as well.
So we're going to chat with Mark Mulligan in a few minutes about some of the technology that we're seeing at IMEX America, but what were some of the other important trends or experiences, activations that you really wanted to ensure were part of the IMEX America experience this year?
Yeah, we've got new things like our People and Planet Village, where we're really focusing on showcasing both sustainability, diversity, equity and inclusion, but also all these sort of charitable efforts that are in the industry. So that's a really important area, really encourage people to go down there, and you can actually take part in experiences like building the clubhouse or Clean the World. We obviously have our Buzz Hub as well going this week, where we're broadcasting direct from the show floor like you are here, but through the IMEX Buzz Hub that we've been building throughout the year, and we're broadcasting content throughout that. And then also yesterday, Smart Monday, we wanted to take people out and about in Vegas, so we had lots of tours going. So all of these things we tried to sort of, give people what was familiar to them, give them a traditional IMEX experience, but also build in some new and fresh ideas.
Well, you nailed it, because as I said, it feels very normal, and I think it's so refreshing to be here. There are folks that decided to join us last minute, as we were talking about, and turning the corner and seeing familiar faces is such a warm feeling that we all missed so much, and then to add a lot of the experiences that you have implemented into the event has just been phenomenal. So well done.
Thank
all
you.
Around, and congratulations. It's so good to see you in
Yes,
person.
It's so good to see you.
And thank you for all that you do for our industry.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so as you probably saw behind me just a few moments ago, Jesse States was teaching in our booth. So we've got booth education happening here on the show floor, but there's also a lot of technology and talks around technology, because as we know, hybrid events, virtual events, they're not necessarily going anywhere, although we are back in person. So joining me now is Mark Mulligan, Director of Operations for the IMEX Group, and AJ Hook with Socio, who is our MPItv sponsor. And we are here to talk all about some of the innovations that are taking place within IMEX America on the show floor and beyond. So Mark, let's start with you. Talk us through, we were just chatting with Karina about all the neat activations and experiences and getting people out into the city of Las Vegas to, see, touch, smell, witness the destination that we're in. But then, of course, here within the show, what are some of those technologies and innovations that are taking place?
Yeah, well, obviously we've been somewhat preoccupied with the COVID safety matter. That was the first thing we needed to address. So we had to do some research and figure out how we could do that, how we could make sure that everyone here could be verified as fully vaccinated. So we partnered with Clear and with Safe Expo. Clear, of course, to handle the US attendees, and their well-known app for that. And Safe Expo offer a wider service that can cater to the international range of vaccines. So work together in tandem with those guys to be able to make sure that we got all of those people fully verified and that we knew that we could have the safest show possible.
Yeah, and for those of you that may not be familiar with the Clear app for the U.S. attendees, of course, since it's focused on the for U.S. attendees, it's super simple. You download the Clear app, and all you had to do, and the IMEX group encouraged this to happen, prior to arriving on site in Las Vegas, is upload your vaccination card, and then when you arrive, all you do is show your app to security at the door, and they give you one of these bracelets and you're set for the week, right? So it's very, very simple to use and so efficient and very effective. So well done on that part. So of course, event software and technology in general accelerated over the past year and a half, 2 years. I mean, it's amazing how fast we saw tech companies grow through the pandemic. So let's talk to you, AJ, with Socio. What are some of those technologies that you all accelerated throughout your company?
Yeah, for sure. So main thing that we hear from our customers is they're looking for stability. They might not come out and say that explicitly, but if you're reading between the lines, definitely the main thing that they're looking for. And the software space, especially over the last couple years, has been just like the rest of the industry, where there's been a ton of evolution. There's been companies that have disappeared. There's been companies that have come onto the scene out of nowhere. And it seems to me, from talking to folks, that the ones that are pushing through are the ones that do have a variety of tools to be able to handle whatever event format ends up what they're dealing with, which may not be the same one that they started out planning for. So, like a great example, everybody on site is familiar with registration and on-site badge printing and check-in, lead retrieval, those kinds of things. But obviously folks want that stability, so if there is some kind of change that happens when they're halfway through the planning process, they're not up a creek. So if you've got a partner like Socio and others, obviously, that have some of the live streaming components, some kind of desktop dashboard that they can experience, they can interact with their attendees from home, then if you do have those changes partway through, no big deal. You don't have to take a huge left turn. You can just flip a couple switches, bring on some new tools, and still have that stability that you were looking for.
So, and we're talking about different event formats, right? So we've got the in-person experience, which we all know and love and are familiar with. We've got virtual events, which we all maybe love. I don't know at this point. We're, kind of, in a different space. But then we also have hybrid, right? So right. How does the technology enable events across the different formats?
Yeah, definitely. So organizers, again, like from what I'm hearing from them, you still want to make it feel like it's one big audience. You don't want to make it feel like you're putting on two separate events. So some of those interactive tools or the networking tools, engagement tools, whether it's me connecting with you, maybe you're on site and I'm at home, but you asked a good question and I'd love to talk to you more about it. Or whether it's like some kind of gamification, we're actually using that here to push people to come and talk to us so we can connect with people for the first time in a couple years at this event. There's a lot of ways to incentivize and connect people, again, across those audiences, even with stuff like video conferencing, where you might not typically expect to go to an event to then use video conferencing, but again, if you'd like to add that as something that can connect your audiences across that distance, again, all of those tools are available and we put them under the organizer's control.
Perfect. So then, Mark, of course, here at IMEX America, that is probably a big component of this event, is making sure that you are connecting, our in-person audience with our virtual back with in-person. So what does that connectivity piece look like while we're here this week?
Yeah, we were, of course, we didn't know what the turnout was going to be like for this show when we were planning in the summer. So it was really crucial that we made sure there was a way for people to be part of this. We knew that some people wouldn't be able to make it, border situations and other considerations. So the Buzz Hub broadcast studio that we have here on the show floor enabled us to give them a window into live IMEX here. And we replicated some of our best education over there, and hopefully just included them. We know people wanted to be here who can't be here, so that's been a really nice way, hopefully, to involve everybody, the wider community.
I love that. What are you most proud of, Mark? I mean, obviously, it's been 2 years since we've been at IMEX America in person. What are you most proud of as you walk around the show floor and witness this event?
I try not to get emotional because it was quite something this morning. What we've all been through, not just IMEX, everybody's been through so much. And to see the volumes of people, to look around here and see the investments and the commitments that people have made to our show, it means the world to us. It's just wonderful to see. I've seen so many people literally running down the aisles to hug each other. That's what IMEX is about. Those connections, they're personal and they're more than business. And there's nothing that beats that really as an event organizer.
Amen. I love that. Yes. And it is an emotional moment, right? Seeing like crowds of people together and just like, wow, you're here in the flesh. That's what I keep saying to people. You're here in the flesh. You're not via Zoom or WebEx or, a software. So thank you so much to both of you for your time. Thank you for having us here at IMEX America. We're excited to be here. And Socio, thank you for your sponsorship of MPItv. I appreciate you both. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, so as you know, we had some booth education take place behind me, and you may or may not be familiar with Jessie States. She is the VP of MPI Academy for MPI, of course. So, Jessie, it is always so exciting to chat with you. You had a packed session back there. It was awesome. And I'm like, of course, Jessie always draws in the crowd, right? Like, we leave it up to you to draw in the crowd. But it was really great to see this area packed with people just, ready to learn and engage and just share knowledge. So let's first talk about the booth education that is happening right here from the MPI booth.
Yes, so every day from 11 to 2 on the hour, every hour, so 11, 12, 1, and 2, we're offering an education session. And what we really want to do is provide an additional opportunity for some of the knowledge that MPI has gained, not only over the past 20 months of pandemic, but also before that. How are we ensuring that all of our community members, not just our MPI members, but this is the perfect opportunity for us to reach the entire global industry community. How are we ensuring that we are providing knowledge, expertise, education in areas that matter to them right now? And that's really what our focus is on at IMEX this year, is trying to provide that opportunity for us to share some of the learnings of our entire community with an even larger global community.
Yeah, and I love that you said what matters to them right now, because right now I think the industry more than ever is having some really tough conversations and having to make some really tough decisions within their own internal organizations around vaccine mandates and what is the right thing to do, right? So your session here, there's an interesting slide up on the screen about organizations, and you surveyed, I'm not sure, I'll let you share with us so I don't misspeak, but you surveyed MPI members, I believe, about whether they were going to mandate vaccines within their own organization. So do you mind chatting through that data with us?
Sure. We asked two questions. We asked, is your organization within the meeting space requiring vaccines for staff? And then in turn, is your organization within the meeting space providing or asking for vaccines from your participants or your attendees? What we wanted to do was get a little bit of a pulse on what our attendees would be expecting out of us for our WC events and some other events. We also see that as a necessary question for all organizations to ask, what their participants might expect them to do. So asking your own attendees, are you vaccinated? Do you plan to get vaccinated? Those sorts of questions. And what I like to say is that as an overarching organization globally, there's no right answer to the question. It's just important that your organization asks it. And that your group of stakeholders, your event owners, your legal teams are all on the same page when it comes to answers about the types of protocols that you want to have at your meetings and events. So whether or not you say that vaccines are the right answer, or we're still going to mask, or we're going to temperature check, but we don't need the vaccines, or we're going to require a PCR test or a vaccine, all of those, there's no right answer to any of these things. It's just that you as an organization have to be really sure that you've made the right decision.
Yeah, that's a great point. How have you had to shift and learn so quickly through, it feels like, every week is something new for us to take on as an industry. So for you, as Jessie states, really kind of overseeing the MPI Academy, like what has that been like for you to have to educate yourself and stay on top of all of this data, research trends, everything in between?
I think in terms of kind of staying on top of everything, it's more of a listening process
than anything else. It's really listening to our audience, listening to our community, and then taking in what I'm learning and then going out and finding the resources necessary to ensure that I'm upskilling. And I think that's something that we're all doing right now, is we're looking at the fact that this job is changing radically, and it's going to continue to change radically into the future. So how are we all ensuring that we remain educated in the right areas, that we're adapting, that we're learning the right skills and abilities so that we're agile and that we can change with the job itself?
Yeah. Are you also seeing, I noticed yesterday Smart Monday was really well attended. I mean, I feel like it was more booming than past years almost. So are you seeing more hunger for the education that people need and need right now? Like the booth being busier, it feels like, with education and Smart Monday. Like, are you seeing that trend happening?
I think we're seeing an interesting trend, and that is towards more conversational dialogue when it comes to education. And when I look at some of the education that was really impactful and well attended yesterday, it reflected that. And it also reflected here. This isn't a traditional space for an educational environment. And what we're seeing is that people who are coming on site to meetings post-pandemic are expecting different things out of their education. So what we found was that the campfire area was standing room only. We had a dialogue room that was packed the entire time. People want to learn from not only an expert in the front of the room, they want to figure out how we have all changed and learned from each other. And right now, that's the education that everybody's craving.
Yeah, it's more conversational, less talking at people, more talking to each other. Love it. Well, Jessie, thank you so much. As always, great job with our education and our programming within MPI. Thank you for all that you do.
Thanks, Sarah.
Awesome. All right, so the education, of course, continues, and Jessie mentioned space and the importance of delivering an event experience and something that is effective through space. So joining me now is Janet Spurstad. She's the faculty director for Madison College. Hi, Janet.
Hello.
It's so good to see you.
Nice to see you.
This is my first time seeing Janet, so in person in a long
real
time.
life.
Yeah.
Let me poke you.
In a long time. I think the last time I saw you was we did an interview at IMEX America, actually, but it was 2019.
Yeah.
So it's literally
Which
been
is
2
really
years.
like 2009.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, it feels like decades ago, right? So, but anyway, so happy that you're here.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you actually have a session called Nature of Space.
Yep.
So tell our audience a little bit more about that session and some of the key takeaways from it.
Yeah, so IMEX has this platform that they have their theme is nature and integrating it. And in the last year, it's sort of like fruition came to life where we were extracted from everything in the world. And when we were writing the white paper, we were really thinking about how do we perform and a human performance of it, because we're in the business of people. We're not in the business of events, we're in the business of people and the performance around it. And so I've written a white paper with IMEX on the nature of space, an ecosystem of success. And that we started to really look at some key things that we can learn from the genius of nature on, nature doesn't do waste. Nature thrives on diversity. Nature is really the first collaborator. And so we started thinking about how does that relate to what we do. And so we started drilling down and looking at it and picking a simple thing that every event has, like lighting. What does this mean when we talk about nature and lighting? Well, nature runs best in light, but it's not on and off. We have a dimming of the day, and we have a dawn, the dawns, and how does that really work in our health and well-being, and how can we bring that in? And so even just looking at lighting and adding diffused lighting, especially like here we are in IMEX in this amazing experience where our adrenalines are off the hook because we're excited to see people, which means our stress is also higher. And so we looked at it and thought, you know what? Canopies, we love canopies being underneath one. If you think like a pergola or underneath the leaves and this soft diffused lighting comes through, we are really happy and we feel happy. So we're like, how can we add elements into that, into like this exhibition hall, even having a canopy where people can just rest and feel safe, get acclimated and go. Adding lighting in like the circadian rhythm of our body, circadian rhythm of our brain and lighting. So it's just not all lights on. Like, why don't we have the lights shift throughout the day? Because our bodies are changing, even though we know the sun is setting and these lights are high. Our body is changing. Let's acknowledge that and help performance increase by how we do that. And so we just started really looking at some elements, like if we thought about lighting as we do sound, but we don't. We just think it was on or off. It's not bright enough, brighter, brighter. It's not always about that. Adding elements of, the natural colors into the world, adding natural sounds into the world. We have an innate connection to nature. It's called biophilia. So the more we can integrate that, the better people are, the happier people are. Happy people perform better. And so it's just really, we explored a number of different things in that paper, that how can we not just work harder, but how can we leverage things that can help people meet different people they wouldn't normally meet. So they lean in to strange people and strange environments. How can we help people learn so they open up their mind more and they start to watch weak signals? And so that's what it explores about.
I love that. And, these are the kinds of conversations that, for me, my aha moment is like, wow, here you are, this is really revolutionizing the way that we meet and the way that we do events. We're in the people business, as you said, but, you have to keep up with how people engage best. And I love that this white paper really reflects that. So how are we seeing some of what you just shared reflected across IMEX America this week?
Yeah. So here's a really interesting fact about the brain that I think we can do so easy, and we already do it. The brain doesn't know what's real or fake. It's our senses that tell us that. So if you look around, they've integrated images of nature, even though there may not be a flower, but there's fractals. And so they have obviously natural plants, fake plants, they have images of nature all around, and even just looking at that image of a half of a flower for 40 seconds changes the neurochemicals in your brain.
Wow.
So even while we're in this environment with no windows, we have elements of nature built into here through imaging, from their branding, through the themes, through all these things. And it's about having moments that we just help the brain reset and go, so it's just not bright lights, big sound, seeing friends, and your adrenaline, you're done by 1 p.m. and you're exhausted.
Yeah, my moment of reset was there's a Vin Diesel, Madame Tussauds type of statue. That was my reset.
Yeah, see?
That's awesome. Well, Janet, thank you so much. That is really neat stuff, and I love that we're driving that into our space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes everyone, and it's we all bring in our different perspectives, and we need it.
Absolutely.
We need it, so thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, and great to see you.
Thank you.
Have a great show.
Thank you.
All right, well, that does it for us on this episode of MPItv, sponsored by Socio. As you know by now, and if you don't, you will now, we've got 2 shows a day, one at 8 a.m. Pacific and another at 1:30 Pacific each day. So we still have tomorrow and Thursday to go. So lots of content, lots of great speakers that we will be interviewing, so you don't want to miss it. So thank you so much again for joining us, and we're going to leave you now with a quick message from our sponsor, Socio.
Mike's off.
Thank you, sir.
Great, thank you.
Socio, now a part of WebEx, is an end-to-end event management platform for virtual, in-person, and hybrid events. With customers in over 70 countries, including Google, Women in Product, and Stanford University, Socio can power events of all sizes and types, from company sales kickoffs to international conferences. Create your unique event experience with our intuitive drag-and-drop platform.
¿Vas a estar ahí mañana en el press conference? Okay.